One comment, that's all it took to light up the entire basketball internet. Caitlin Clark jumped under Steph Curry interview and wrote, "We want to see Steph make 12 threes a game. Stop grabbing him, please." Sounds simple, right? But the timing of that comment and everything happening around it tells a much bigger story. Because right now, there's growing buzz that Caitlin Clark may be quietly linking up with Steph Curry's personal shooting coach during the offseason. And if that's true, the league might not be ready for what comes next. Think about how wild this is. The greatest shooter in basketball history dealing with constant face guarding and physical defense, and the most electric rookie in the WNBA dealing with the exact same problem. Two different leagues, same struggle, same defensive frustration, and now possibly the same training circle. That's not coincidence, that's alignment. While fans were laughing at Caitlin's comment and liking the post, insiders started connecting dots. Steph's shooting coach posting Caitlin-related content, Steph rocking her Nike shoes, Caitlin engaging publicly with Steph's interview at the exact moment defensive physicality is becoming a league-wide debate. Something is forming here, and it could change how Caitlin comes back next season. Because if Caitlin really is working with the same people who helped Steph build the most unstoppable shooting profile in basketball history, that's not just an off-season workout. That's a blueprint upgrade. That's mechanics, shot preparation, movement without the ball, conditioning for constant defensive pressure, all the little details that turn great shooters into nightmares for defenses. And here's what makes this even more interesting. Caitlin has stayed relatively quiet about how aggressively teams defended her all season. She didn't complain, she didn't start public battles, but that one comment on Steph's interview, that felt different. It felt intentional, like she was finally saying something without actually saying it about herself. So the question isn't just whether Caitlin Clark is training with Steph Curry's shooting coach. The real question is this: if she is, does that make her completely terrifying next season? Or are we watching the internet overreact to off-season breadcrumbs? Because once you see what's been happening behind the scenes, this story gets a lot more serious. At first glance, Caitlin Clark's comment looked harmless, just a fan showing love to another superstar. But when you slow it down and actually read what she said, it hits differently. "We want to see Steph make 12 threes a game. Stop grabbing him, please." That wasn't random. That was specific. And it landed right on one of the most controversial issues in basketball right now. Because Steph wasn't just being guarded, he was being face-guarded, held, bumped, shadowed from half court. And Caitlin knows that feeling better than almost anyone. That exact defensive treatment followed her everywhere during her rookie season. Teams blitzed her the moment she crossed half court, two defenders chasing her around screens, constant hand-checking, constant physical pressure. That's why people immediately connected the dots. Caitlin wasn't just defending Steph, she was indirectly talking about herself, without complaining, without calling out refs, without making it about the WNBA. She framed it through Steph's experience, and that made it powerful. What made it even more interesting was the timing. Steph had just given an interview where he said part of that defensive style isn't real basketball, and Caitlin jumped in almost immediately. That wasn't a coincidence. That was alignment. Two elite shooters reacting to the same problem from two different leagues. Fans noticed, media noticed, even players started reacting, because it's rare to see cross-league stars publicly echo each other like this, especially when it touches on officiating and physical defense, which is always a sensitive topic. And the way Caitlin worded it was smart. She didn't sound bitter. She didn't sound angry. She sounded like a fan who just wants to watch great basketball. But everyone who's been paying attention knows that exact sentence applies to her situation too. But that comment was just the spark. Because once people started digging deeper, they realized this wasn't the only connection between Caitlin and Steph happening right now. And that's where things start getting really interesting. Steph's interview is what gave Caitlin's comment real weight. When asked about getting face-guarded and grabbed all game, Steph didn't explode. He didn't rant. He stayed calm. But his message was clear. He said part of him pushes back against that style of defense because it's not real basketball. That line stuck, because what he was really saying is that when defenders stop playing positioning and start relying on holding and physical obstruction, it takes away from the skill of the game. It turns strategy into survival. And fans don't tune in to watch survival basketball. They tune in to watch greatness. Steph also pointed out something important. That level of defensive pressure shows respect. It shows fear. Teams don't guard average players like that. They do it to stars who change games with one shot. And that's exactly what Caitlin experienced in her rookie season. From her first WNBA game, defenses treated her like a veteran superstar. Blitzes, traps, face guarding off the ball, physical bumps every possession. Some of it was strategy, some of it crossed the line. And analysts called it out repeatedly. Broadcast crews were pointing out missed fouls. Coaches admitted perimeter contact had become excessive. But Caitlin didn't make it a headline war. She stayed quiet. She played through it. She kept producing. That's why her jumping into Steph's conversation mattered so much. It was the first time she publicly aligned herself with this issue without turning it into a personal complaint. And that subtle move sent a message, not just to fans, but to the league. Because when the greatest shooter ever and the biggest rising star in women's basketball are saying the same thing, people start paying attention. But that wasn't the only connection happening. Because while this conversation was blowing up online, something else was quietly happening off the court that could completely change Caitlin's off-season trajectory. This is where things start getting serious, because while fans were focused on comments and interviews, people behind the scenes started noticing patterns. Steph Curry was seen wearing Caitlin Clark's Nike shoes. Steph's personal shooting coach began posting Caitlin-related content, and suddenly, the internet started asking the same question: are they working together? Now, to be clear, nothing has been officially confirmed, but multiple signs are pointing in that direction. And if this off-season link-up is actually happening, it's a massive deal, because Steph's shooting coach isn't just any trainer. This is the person who helped build the most efficient long-range shooter the game has ever seen. The mechanics, the footwork, the off-ball movement, the conditioning to shoot under constant pressure, all of that comes from years of refinement. For Caitlin, this would be the perfect upgrade. She's already the best shooter in women's basketball. The range is there, the confidence is there, the volume is there. What she's facing now is the next level problem. How do you stay elite when every defense is built to stop you specifically? That's exactly the problem Steph has solved for over a decade. Learning how to get shots off against double teams, how to relocate quickly, how to maintain balance under physical defense, how to turn defensive pressure into opportunity instead of frustration. And when you put those two profiles together, the fit makes too much sense to ignore. Similar play styles, similar defensive treatment, similar brand backing through Nike, similar cultural impact on how kids shoot the ball. If Caitlin is really tapping into that knowledge during the break, she's not just training, she's leveling up, and that should make every defense in the league uncomfortable. But there's another layer to this story that makes it even bigger than basketball training. Because Caitlin isn't just growing as a player, she's becoming a major power figure inside the WNBA ecosystem, and that changes everything. What a lot of people don't fully realize yet is how much Caitlin Clark changed the WNBA in just one season. Attendance jumped, TV ratings spiked, merchandise sales exploded, games got moved to bigger arenas, national broadcasts followed her schedule. That didn't happen by accident. That happened because she brought eyeballs back to the league in a way no rookie ever had before. And that gives her leverage, real leverage, especially with major CBA negotiations happening behind the scenes. Players are pushing for better pay, better travel conditions, and stronger revenue sharing. And the biggest bargaining chip the league has right now is star power. Caitlin is the face of that shift. That's why her recent comments about the season continuing and games being played caught attention. She didn't sound uncertain. She didn't sound worried. She spoke like someone who knows the league can't afford to slow momentum right now. Because without games, there's no growth. Without growth, there's no leverage. Even at USA basketball events, Caitlin has spoken about balance. fighting for progress while understanding compromise. That's not typical second-year player language. That's leadership language. That's someone who understands her influence. And this connects directly to the officiating conversation, because when a player brings this much value to the league, her voice matters more. She doesn't have to scream. She doesn't have to complain publicly. Small comments carry weight. Small signals get amplified. So when Caitlin aligns herself with Steph Curry on a major basketball issue like physical perimeter defense, it's not just fan talk, it's pressure, subtle, smart pressure. And that's why this moment feels different from past debates, because this isn't just about fouls anymore. It's about the direction the league is heading, and whether they're willing to protect their biggest stars the same way other leagues do. But there's still one big piece missing. How does all of this actually affect Caitlin's game next season? Because if these training rumors are real, the on-court impact could be massive. Now imagine this. Caitlin Clark comes back next season with everything she already has, plus new shooting mechanics, faster release preparation, improved off-ball movement, and better conditioning to handle constant pressure. That's not just improvement, that's transformation. If she's really learning from the same system that helped Steph dominate defenses for over a decade, it changes how teams can guard her. Blitzing becomes riskier, face guarding becomes less effective, trapping becomes more dangerous. Because the more comfortable she gets moving without the ball and relocating for quick shots, the harder it becomes to slow her down without fouling. And here's the scary part for defenses. Caitlin is already producing while dealing with physical coverage. If she figures out how to punish that style of defense even more efficiently, teams will be forced to change how they guard her. Which brings us right back to the officiating issue. Because as her impact grows, the pressure on refs and league officials to clean up excessive contact will grow too. You can already see it building. Coaches talking about perimeter contact, analysts pointing out missed calls, fans demanding better flow of play, Caitlin and Steph publicly echoing the same frustration. This isn't random noise anymore, it's momentum. And Caitlin's approach is smart. She's not attacking the league. She's not starting fights. She's building influence quietly, training with elite minds, aligning herself with respected voices, letting her performance do the talking. If this off-season connection turns out to be real, it won't just make Caitlin more dangerous. It will force the league to adapt. Defenses will have to evolve. Officiating standards will come under more scrutiny. And the overall product of the game could shift toward faster, cleaner, more skill-based basketball. That's why this moment matters. It's not just off-season buzz, it's a potential turning point. Which brings us to the final question. Are we watching Caitlin Clark quietly prepare to take another massive leap forward? Or is the internet getting ahead of itself again? Because either way, next season is shaping up to be very different. So now everything comes back to one simple question. Is this just off-season hype? Or are we watching Caitlin Clark quietly set up the biggest upgrade of her career? One comment connected her to Steph Curry. Training rumors tied her to the greatest shooting system in basketball history. Her growing influence inside the league gave her more leverage than most second-year players ever get. And all of it is happening at the exact moment the WNBA is trying to define its next era. That's not random timing, that's opportunity. If Caitlin really is working with Steph's shooting coach, defenses should be worried, because she's already changing how teams guard the perimeter. She's already pulling defenders out to the logo. She's already forcing double teams before crossing half court. Now imagine that same player with even cleaner mechanics, faster relocation, and better tools to punish pressure. That's not just improvement, that's evolution. And even if some of these off-season connections turn out to be overstated, the bigger picture doesn't change. Caitlin is becoming more than just a great scorer. She's becoming a central figure in how the league grows, how the game is officiated, and how stars are protected. So what do you think? Does training with Steph's people make Caitlin unstoppable next season? Or are fans reading too much into a few social media clues? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more breakdowns like this, the behind-the-scenes moves, off-season connections, and subtle shifts that shape the next season, make sure you're subscribed. Because this story isn't over, it's just getting started.